Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to each of the witnesses here today. You know, there ought to be at least three propositions on which all of us can agree. Number one, violent crime is always unacceptable and should be punished severely. Number two, hate is wrong. And number three, the machinery of the federal government should not be used as a tool to target and persecute your political opponents. All three of those propositions should be ideas that bring us together regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. Unfortunately, we see over and over again efforts to politicize acts of violence. When it comes to white supremacy, when it comes to vicious hate groups like the Klan or the Nazi Party, in my view, they are unequivocally hateful, bigoted, racist morons who should be denounced and despised. I do think my colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle try very hard to erase the history of the Klan, that it was formed by elected Democrats, that its leadership was almost entirely elected Democrats, that the authors of the Jim Crow laws were without exception elected Democrats. And I also think today's congressional Democrats try to use the charge of white supremacy, which is undoubtedly evil, bigoted, and wrong, and weaponized by their own party. They try to use that as a proxy for attacking a political party they disagree with. And they do so by diminishing anti-Jewish violence, anti-Asian violence, violence directed at white people, violence directed at police. My view is simple. Violence is always wrong. Whatever your ideology, left wing, right wing, no wings. If you are seeking to hurt people, it is wrong. Is violence from white supremacist extremist organizations a problem? Absolutely. As is violence from other hate groups. The Brooklyn subway shooter was a known black supremacist who called for racial violence. The Waukesha attacker who murdered 6 people driving an SUV into a Christmas parade was a viciously left-wing black nationalist bigot. 2016, another black nationalist gunned down 5 police officers in Dallas. I was there with President Obama at the funeral for those police officers. He did so on explicitly racial grounds. In 2019, 2 anti-Semitic domestic terrorists gunned down 4 people in a kosher grocery store. San Francisco in the past year has seen a 567% increase in anti-Asian violence. Anti-Jewish hate crimes in New York City are up 148% in the first quarter of 2022 compared to the first quarter of 2021. And then, of course, we have the violence of the Antifa riots and the Black Lives Matter riots that racked this country. As stores were looted, police cars were firebombed, people were assaulted, people were murdered. My colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle sought to excuse, sought to apologize for, even went so far as raised money to bail out of jail the violent rioters committing these acts of violence. When it comes to violence, the Department of Justice should not treat it as an excuse simply to target the political opponents of whatever administration is in power, Republican or Democrat, but instead, violent crime should be prosecuted vigorously across the board to keep people safe. Mr. Herdman, you personally prosecuted the anarchist bridge bombers, 5 left-wing extremists who broke off of the Occupy protests and plotted to bomb a bridge in the Cleveland area. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
Can you describe that case and what you encountered there?
Well, it was an evolving threat picture. There were a number of different attacks that were contemplated as I spoke to in my written testimony. There were discussions about going to Chicago and engaging in attacks on NATO or G8 summit that was held that year. They also discussed attacks in Tampa with the Republican National Convention being held there that year, and ultimately settled on a bridge in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and attempted to bring it down with a group of them gathering one night on May 1st, 2012, in order to try to bring that bridge down.
In your judgment, do policies that result in giving a slap on the wrist to violent criminals and violent terrorists, that release people who commit riots and acts of violence, release them with minimal to no jail time, do those policies protect society? Do they keep us safe from violence?
One of the advantages of being a federal prosecutor was we typically got people held on bail, and we typically had very strong penalties for when they were convicted of a federal crime. And if we were going to hold somebody accountable under federal law for a violation of federal criminal law, those were my expectations as a federal prosecutor, that they'd be held on bail and that they would get a severe sentence as a result of a violent crime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Durbin went to vote. And so I just want to start out by noting that the intelligence community has identified racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists as a category of people most likely to conduct mass casualty attacks. I think we have an agreement on that. But one thing that wasn't noticed, and this is just 1 year of statistics, but was not noted by Senator Cruz, and that is that the FBI reported that of the racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists it was investigating in 2020, so let me be very clear about the category, 87% were white supremacists. So I just think it's very important that the record reflect that. It's certainly not all of them, but it, at least for the recent year that we have data on, it was the majority of them. So getting to that, Commissioner Whitfield, I am so sorry for your loss. I understand that your mom was a loving and devoted mom and wife, and that she was at the market buying groceries for your dad, who is in a nursing home. And I can't imagine what you, your father, the rest of your families are going to, and I just want to respect your courage for coming forward and speaking today, and want you to know that there's a lot of us that are on your side here and want to take action. While there's nothing we can do to bring back your mom or the other victims at the grocery store, how can our response to this tragedy help you, your family, and your community to heal?
Thank you, Senator. First of all, by calling it what it is, and not, sweeping it under the rug and beating around the bush. It is white supremacy. It's a problem. And this young man, though he pulled the trigger, others loaded the gun. Others fed him. Others radicalized him. All of the things that we've been talking about here today contributed to his racist, evil behavior. And until we start holding those entities accountable and calling them out, we're not going to be able to do anything about this. There's a lot of talk about whether you deal with the ideology or you deal with the acts. The truth of the matter is, if you just deal with the acts, you're never going to stop it. You're going to be after the fact all the time. How do you stop it? You have to deal with the ideology. You have to start at the root if you're going to ferret this thing out. So you're asking what you can do. I don't have the answers. But we have to call it what it is. We have to start by identifying what the issues are and address them and have, real conversations about that. We have to face these things.
I think that's a really good point. Thank you.
Cây thiếu đất, cây sông sống với ai? Chuyện trăm năm ân tình cây và đất, cây bám rễ sâu, đất ôm chặt tận đáy lòng. Những con đường trải dài bóng mát, những mảnh vườn trái ngọt cây xanh, ôi đẹp làm sao tình cây và đất đem đến mối sinh mạch sống cho đời. Trời sẽ duyên nên khiến em gặp anh, cho lứa đôi kết thành mộng ước của ngày xanh. Rồi mai đây anh là đất, em là cây, vĩnh phúc cho ai biết rằng từ đó mùa xuân vĩnh hằng. Cây đất ngừng ngừng hơi thở, cây thiếu đất, cây sông sống với ai? Chuyện trăm năm ân tình cây và đất, cây bám rễ sâu, đất ôm chặt tận đáy lòng. Những con đường trải dài bóng mát, những mảnh vườn trái ngọt cây xanh, ôi đẹp làm sao tình cây và đất đem đến mối sinh mạch sống cho đời. Trời sẽ duyên nên khiến em gặp anh, cho lứa đôi kết thành mộng ước của ngày xanh. Rồi mai đây anh là đất, em là cây, vĩnh phúc cho ai biết rằng từ đó mùa xuân vĩnh hằng. Trời sẽ duyên nên khiến em gặp anh, cho lứa đôi kết thành mộng ước của ngày xanh. Rồi mai đây anh là đất, em là cây, vĩnh phúc cho ai biết rằng từ đó mùa xuân vĩnh hằng. Vĩnh phúc cho ai biết rằng từ đó mùa xuân vĩnh hằng. Vĩnh phúc cho ai biết rằng từ đó mùa xuân vĩnh